This has to do with being able to be aggressive and shout at cops and stuff like that. That is not a violation. There's also, let me see here. So the interference. So In Re Chase, which is a California case, which is, I guess, cited by Fordyce, it basically says that the only way it can be interference is if it's physical. And so I wanted to kind of get with Alan about that because, we see the statutes resisting, obstructing, delaying, and, we see Chille shouting at these guys, and people are saying, oh, well, that means that, Chille was interfering. He was interfering with the officers. That's what that means to them. And of course, I don't think that that's interference. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk with Alan about that. And by the way, give me a bunch of ones if y'all miss Chille. Give me a bunch of OTVOs. And I will go ahead and let Alan talk a little bit about his observations and why Alan thinks that it could be potentially construed as a valid sentence that the judge gave Chille and not being appealable as a prior restraint or a First Amendment issue. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, first off, I just want to remind everyone that Chille was convicted in Nevada State Court. And while it's not necessarily relevant, that hasn't been clearly established for reasons I'll go into in a little bit. The citation to the Ninth Circuit certainly is very persuasive, but the Ninth Circuit is not precedent in Nevada State Court. The Ninth Circuit is part of the federal system of courts, and what that means is that it's anything the Ninth Circuit does is binding on all federal courts within its jurisdiction, which includes Nevada. However, the state courts are part of an independent system, and the state trial court is only bound by the U.S. Supreme Court and the U.S. and the Nevada Supreme Court. Now, that said, there probably is a right to film cops. And, Mike, it's a little bit hard to talk over the music.
Yeah, it's just that I don't have any music playing.
Oh.
Hold on a second. I'm going to mute my mic.
Maybe there's something I've got playing that I didn't realize.
See if you have any windows open on your...
Maybe it's on me.
Because I agree. Let me just take a look at everything that I've got here and see if there's anything making music. Just give me 1 second, guys. How's that? I think I fixed it.
Yeah, so I don't hear anything on my end. But, the clearly established issue actually applies in civil cases when you try to get around qualified immunity. In a criminal case, you do not need to establish something was clearly established prior to bringing a constitutional claim. Now, there's two issues with if I were the prosecutor, I would say that whether or not officer safety is something that gets raised a lot of times. There's also something called a time, place, and manner restriction, and oftentimes, for example, whether you need a permit to protest an area prior to doing so, or if you can protest the area, say at night, but not during the day, right? That's time, place, and manner restriction. And the courts typically find that I would argue this isn't necessarily a prior restraint. It's a time, place, and manner restriction on your ability to film, because you are able to film just from not within 21 feet.
Well, so can you sort of distinguish the difference between time, place, and manner and prior restraint for my viewers, because not all these people are lawyers?
Yeah, it's again, I'm taking the position of the prosecution, but I would say that here, if it was a complete ban on filming police, then that would be a prior restraint. And here, they're taking the position that you have to be outside of a 21-foot bubble. So instead of being a complete ban on Chille speech, it's just simply the government saying that, yes, we'll allow you to have this type of speech, but it has to be in certain applicable manners, in a manner that we deem safe.
So the police policy would have force and effect of law then?
No, but if you have a, it's sort of similar to, they're allowed to interpret the law in a way. So if they have a, if there's law in the books, let's just say, I'm just using this as an example, right? Disturbing the peace, right? And the police are allowed to make a determination on what to construe that statute in a certain manner. So, yeah, that's their take on the law when the law is ambiguous. The government agencies are not allowed to make a interpret laws in a manner that are clearly contrary to the black letter, to the plain text of the law.
Yeah.
However, they are allowed to, when the law is ambiguous, interpret the law. And I see 3P PO. I'm going to get to your comment in a second. And that's certainly a cogent comment. Now, just an example here, I am in the federal court challenging the bump stock ban. And it's a similar principle. It's a little bit different, but similar basic principle. In my bump stock case, I'm at the DC circuit, and I'm in DC challenging that, and it's not the one that's at the U.S. Supreme Court. There were multiple bump stock cases filed across the country, so I don't want anyone to think that I've got the one at the Supreme Court. At one of the appeals courts in DC, and there, the government's saying that the term machine gun's ambiguous. Therefore, we're allowed to go within that ambiguity, define the term machine gun, and we're doing so to include a bump stock. Now, here, presumably, right? I have not reviewed. I'm not a Nevada attorney, but I've got in. I mean, this is what's happening is that there's a statute that Chille's violated, and they say that he's violated, and they're saying it's ambiguous enough to be construed as allowing a 21-foot bubble around an officer, and they're justifying that based upon this notion that within 21 feet, a police officer cannot draw his firearm in time to stop a armed assailant or any assailant.
That's correct.
So, that interpretation is, if the courts say it's reasonable, I think that is reasonable from the perspective of the DA's office, that, that police are allowed to have a area from where they're able to conduct their business. Now, but let's just say it is a prior restraint. even a prior restraint in this country is not you can't just simply say that, okay, this is a prior restraint, it's done, it's unconstitutional. A prior restraint, i.e., censorship, can be constitutional if it satisfies a test called strict scrutiny. Now, under the strict scrutiny analysis, the government needs to show a compelling government interest. And that's the first prong of strict scrutiny. Secondly, the courts have to demonstrate, and this is an affirmative duty on the part of the government, that this restraint is the most narrowly tailored restriction we could have in order to censor, in order to fulfill the compelling government interest.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just, anyone watching, you just Google strict scrutiny. A lot of stuff will come right up. But let's use something that's maybe not quite as controversial as this issue directly in front of us.
Okay.
So let's say, because I know a lot of people think, well, First Amendment is, sacred. People have a right to say whatever they want, right? And, for the most part, that is true. This is the United States of America.
Yeah.
But let's just say there's law in the books that says you're not allowed to publish national security information, right? Here's the password to the nuclear silo. Right? Well, you have a free speech right to say whatever you want, but here the government's going to be able to say that, look, we have a compelling government interest to not letting people into the silo, and this is narrowly tailored as possible to stop people from going into nuclear silos. Or maybe it's a mechanism. Maybe you don't have the codes, but you have a mechanism to crack the code. If you come up with this on its own, they still can prohibit that because they can show, or most likely, that there's a compelling government interest and it's narrowly tailored. So here, let's just say that this 21-foot rule is construed as a prior restraint. Even then, the government still has an opportunity to say that there's a compelling government interest. And that compelling government interest is officer safety. And and I very, very strongly think there definitely is a compelling government interest the courts are going to buy right there. So the real issue is it narrowly tailored? Now, that gets into IC3PO _OB1. And I just
I love this guy.
I'm just going to say IC. It's a comment. So you're right. This is the big argument. Is this narrowly tailored? The safety concern here is subjective, and however, given the circumstance, there's no way the officer had reason to question further once a traffic stop ceased. Well, what I would argue as the DA is that it was reasonable for him to at least believe that's interfering with his ability to conduct this traffic stop, because at the end of the day, he's going to still needs to observe Chille while he's within that bubble to make sure that the situation isn't changing. He can't put all his attention on what he's doing, he needs to observe another person who's within this zone where he potentially come attack him. So, in that scenario where Chille subjectively can be construed as an aggressive person, then the police officer can articulate that fact to and you're absolutely right. This is Roger Lane. I mean, that's exactly my point. Is that Chille isn't like most of us. He comes across as a person that's full of passion.
Yeah.
And from the law enforcement standpoint, being full of passion can also be construed as potentially dangerous. It's someone that I want to put an eye on, and I can't fully focus on what I'm doing unless I'm able to, because I need to see whether this man's passion will turn into danger for me.
Well,
that's what I would argue as a DA, and from what I could tell from watching the from watching the video.
I'm gonna play it for you again really quick to refresh your recollection and for the audience to kind of see just a section where he dismisses the person who he stopped. So
your name will go on the lawsuit. Mind your own fucking business. Mind your own business. I'm a member of the press. Go get in your car and do your job, little doggy.
Pause it right
there.
Go
feed her. You're being detained right now. Okay, then detain me.
You guys want to say anything about this so far?
Mike, go ahead and pause.
So he dismissed her, Alan, told her that she could leave, that she was free to leave. And you could see, Alan, that he was back at least 21 feet away from Chille when he first spoke to him. So that's my issue is on appeal. Well, the officer originally had his so-called 21-foot bubble when he was back at his patrol car. He had stopped this victim, this traffic stop person in a private parking lot for over 5 minutes. Now, we know that the reasonableness laws say that the investigation should be over in a few minutes. And she was being investigated for lack of registration and front plates, I believe. And rather than write her a ticket, he just decided just to let her go. And he dismissed her as he brought himself into the 21-foot range. So just really quick, I just wanted to kind of let people understand what's going on. So I'm going to play the rest of this.
Real quick. Yeah. Go back.
Isn't he saying something to her?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kicking her loose.
To go.
Should I roll that back real quick?
Yeah, roll it back to 17 seconds for me.
Okay, we're going to go all the way back to 17.
Okay, so since you rolled it that far, because I didn't know you were going to go that far, but
you got to tell me when to stop.
I told you to roll it and stop.
Hey, Alan, this recon
okay,
green's giving me crap,
here we
go again. I'm going to stop it at 24. Copy that.
Back up. I'm going to detain you. You're going to detain me how? In which way?
Sir, 24, sir.
Okay. Now, everybody heard that. That was 5 seconds that Bork told Chille that it's okay to film First Amendment protective activity, but he needed to back away from the stop. And then instead of telling him where and how or when to move, he said, if you don't move back, I'm going to detain you. So now he made a threat and he's already moved back probably about 1.5 feet based on the camera view we've seen.
So just really quick. So Alan, because I don't want to rehash everything, but so I guess one of the points that one of the observers were making here on the live cast was that the traffic stop was over. And of course, your position, if you were the prosecutor's side, is that, well, that doesn't alleviate the potential that Chille might be a danger. I get that, but it still doesn't change the fact that the officer is the one who is walking into that bubble, that 21-foot bubble that we're talking about. And Chille is in fact backing up. He may not be backing up fast enough, but he hasn't been given a command as how far to back up, where to go, nothing. But none of his body cam footage was entered into evidence. And his body cam footage clearly shows the lines on the pavement distancing themselves from him. So as he's walking backwards, those lines in the pavement, the gap opens. So I just wanted to provide some context for your appeal, for your opposition to the appeal. Go ahead.
Now, if I understand you correctly, some of this has not been put into the record. Is that correct, Mike?
Correct. Yeah, all of Chille's body cam footage, which has a lot more exculpatory evidence on it, was never entered into evidence. So obviously that's ineffective assistance of counsel, in my opinion. But what do you say, Alan?
Well, I will say this: failure to present evidence in a trial court waives the issue on appeal. So, if evidence wasn't put into the record, you can't rely upon it. You can't, for the first time on appeal, say, "Hey, I've got new evidence." That's just not the way it works, and
Right.
for better or worse. Is I mean, if you'd have to show some form of excusable neglect in order to potentially, remand the case back down to the trial court to enter this into the record, but that's a very high standard. So, unfortunately, if I were the prosecutor, I would say, this is black letter law.
Yeah.
Failure to preserve a claim waives on appeal. Now, I'm not very familiar with ineffective assistance counsel. I've practiced free speech law, and I practice a lot of Second Amendment law, but it's so I don't know off the top of my head what the standard is for ineffective assistance counsel. However, I do know this: it's a higher standard to get ineffective assistance counsel than it is to waive something. And Rick, I've been asked to do a job, sir, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability.
Hoorah.
Yeah. Yep, it's so my point is there's this area here between having waived it and be able to constitutionally permissibly bring ineffective assistance of counsel claim, and it's that delta that the DA is going to say this is in. So he screwed up. That doesn't mean he was ineffective. There's a difference between saying that somebody's ineffective, ineffective to the point he's so bad you've had your constitutional rights violated, and him just making a mistake. Because at the end of the day, and Chille has a right to pick his attorney, and he picked a private attorney. And if that attorney made a mistake, at the end of the day, that mistake, in most circumstances, is imputed to Chille because he's the one that chose the attorney. And
almost like a vicarious liability, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. I mean, it's I mean, the argument is, well, that's too bad. The trial court attorney made that mistake.
Yeah.
But maybe he made a judgment call. Maybe he had a legal strategy as to why he didn't want to enter that into evidence. We don't know. I'm not second guessing the attorney. In fact, I'm saying that he seemed like a perfectly competent attorney who made a litigation choice. And because that litigation choice did not amount to being constitutionally incompetent, that means that this was well within Chille's rights to hire this attorney and get the representation that he paid for, and also think about from the perspective of the courts. If we had a lower standard, then a savvy litigant could manufacture ineffective assistance.
That is very true. That is very true. Yeah. Yep. Sure. Yeah, I've actually heard of cases like that in criminal matters where the lawyers got caught falling on the swords for hush money, a little bit of extra side cash to go along with the ineffective to get their guy out or get a new trial.
And so this is what I need to know. I mean, just be clear, while I am on here speaking if I was the government, I have not heavily Now, does Chille have a civil suit?
Yeah, I think he's already filed a lawsuit against everybody in the whole state of Nevada that has a badge, pretty much. I'm obviously jesting, but I'm pretty sure that he has filed a lawsuit, or he intends to, against the judge as well as the cop. And I'm pretty sure the judge has sovereign immunity. Last time I checked, I don't know how that's going to go. I think the DA also has a pretty high immunity. Pretty hard
Yeah.
to do anything against them.
Well, they have prosecutorial immunity.
Yeah.
And judicial immunity.
Yeah. And that's like the highest. That's almost as high as a big pharma has.
That's an absolute bar.
Yeah.
In order to get around that, I've sued a judge before within the Second Amendment context, but that was much different circumstances.
I'd love to hear about that in another show for sure. But keep talking. Yeah, keep talking.
You have to show that the judge was acting in a role other than a judge. For example, and this is not what I brought up, but what was an issue in my case? It was a permitting case, but here you'd have to say that the judge is operating as an investigator, is operating as a DA, or maybe not even a DA, but is collecting evidence. Let's just say, and those circumstances, you potentially can say, since they're acting outside of their judicial role, that there's that you can plausibly get around that judicial immunity doesn't apply. But that's not the situation here. Very clearly, the judge in Chille's case, the trial court, was presiding as a judge when she sentenced him. And, that's whether or not now, just to take off my DA's hat and just speak as a civil rights attorney, just very quickly. Now, I think that the most plausible lawsuit that Chille could have out of this is to file a civil free speech lawsuit saying this 21-foot rule is unconstitutional, not in his particular circumstance, but just in general. Yeah. Right. And say that he plans on violating it in the future. Therefore, he has standing to say this is a violation of his free speech rights. Yes. Now, there's a ton of doctrine. I doubt that's what he's doing. Most likely, he's bringing this lawsuit for his individual situation, not for conduct that he plans on doing. And there he'd be, so.
And I believe that's also mentioned in the Fordyce and Bernal cases, where that was one of the Court of Appeals was like, well, he's already said he plans on doing it again. So the MSJ or whatever should have never been granted. There's a triable issue of material facts still.
Yeah, that has to do. Yeah, that has to do with standing issues. That are a little bit more. Standing's not really an issue in criminal cases because you've either done it or you haven't. Right? If there's no standing, you didn't do it. So or there's no law. But anyway, look, Chille, if he's got the right lawyer, I'm not saying that he can't get off here. But
and listen, really quick, Alan, Avilia is saying that perjury is it did look like the officer lied on the stand. I mean, he said Chille only backed up first. He said he never backed up, and then he, when questioned a little harder, he said, well, maybe a few inches. But the videotaped evidence from his own body cam showed that Chille had backed up at least 3 feet, and he was continuing to back up. And it's almost like the judge who acted as the jury just completely ignored that. And I was just like flabbergasted. It's like, how could you not, I would have directed a verdict. I mean, it's so obvious that Chille, who never does want to comply, was actually in compliance, which that's what was shocking to me, Alan, is that Chille rarely, he'll stand his ground. But in this case, it's almost like he knew better. Like he started backing up, and the cop even said he didn't feel Chille was a threat. And we already have a whole army of people going through all the old audit videos to see if that cop appeared in any of those videos, because he may have been dishonest about knowing who Chille was. It seems like every cop in Nevada knew who Chille was by the time this happened. So it's really hard for me to believe that that cop didn't know who Chille was. And I'll bet you if we did a public records request, you'd probably find internal emails. Probably they have department meetings about this guy. I'll bet you money on that this cop knew who Chille was. And, we could probably find that evidence. Anyways,
Well,
I
I'd say it doesn't matter. To be honest, I mean,
okay.
Whether he was inside, and I would argue that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that he was outside the bubble when he was arrested. At some point, he was inside the 21-foot bubble. And
when the officer approached him, the officer closed the distance and made it into where he was violating the rule. The officer basically made him break the rule by walking towards him. Of course, he closed the distance, so there was no more 21 feet.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But, the question is, was this selectively enforced? If they knew Chille was, if they know Chille and they target him, that still isn't enough to say that this was a bad prosecution. There's something called selective enforcement.
Yeah.
That's where a law is rarely enforced, or almost never enforced. You can say, okay, for this one time, we enforce this law because we don't like you. Let's take an example. We have ourselves the town of Blackacre. Blackacre has a law that prohibits jaywalking.
Right.
It's never enforced. One day, Jim, who happens to be a member of the Communist Party, and very outspoken against chief police, decides to jaywalk. He gets arrested and sentenced to the maximum sentence, a year in jail for jaywalking. And it's been 20 years since anyone's been as much cited for jaywalking.
Hey, this sounds like Ironton, the Ironton Police Department.
That sounds like selective enforcement to me.
Right.
Because it's never used. So that's a due process violation there. Because there's no notice that this never enforced law is going to be enforced against you. And you've reasonably relied upon the conduct of government to think that I don't need to obey this law. Now, so the question is, okay, they know who Chille is.
Yeah.
Do they never enforce this law? I doubt that. I mean, if they can point to one time in the past 5 years that they've enforced this law at all, I mean, it doesn't really matter that Chille, they know who Chille is. And, it doesn't even...
I used to think that way too, Alan, before I started practicing. I just thought, oh, well, the case law is on point. So Wanda Mice is saying, why do you guys paint this simple winnable case like a big deal? I guess I'll let Alan answer that one.
Well, if it was a simple winnable case, then the trial court would not have, if it was a simple case, the trial court wouldn't have ruled against him, and, it may be a winnable case on appeal. Like, don't watch a show and think that anyone's forecasting it's impossible to win on appeal. But it's certainly not winnable. I'm sorry, not simple to win.
Right.
On appeal, this is going to be a very novel issue of constitutional law. And, it's going to be a very significant bit of constitutional law because it's, frankly, win or lose, it's going to set in Nevada exactly the contours of being able to film police.
Yeah, I would think that the Nevada legislature is going to go bananas trying to create some kind of a codified 21 or 30-foot rule like they're doing in Florida and some other states, which probably would also be subject to being tested, right, Alan? I mean, because it is sort of that right, because that's preventing speech. You'd have to use telescopic lenses and telescopic, it'd be unreasonable in my estimation. But you tell me.
If it gets to the point, okay, so I think it would be much easier to argue this is not a time, place, manner restriction if it was, say, 100 feet away. And the reason for that is a matter of practicality. Let me backtrack. The reason time, place, manner, and prior restraint matter is under time, place, manner restrictions, at least on the civil side, you have to survive intermediate scrutiny. And intermediate scrutiny is merely an important government interest. And then rather than needing to be narrowly tailored, it just has to be strongly related to the important government interest. Now, if it's a time, place, and manner restriction, you still can film, right?
Yeah.
If they put in, say, 100 or 200 foot roll, that's getting to the point where you can't reasonably record audio.
Yeah.
And you need a very good camera beyond what most people have to be able to accurately film.
Yeah.
So, there I would say that if it's beyond 21 feet, we're talking about more of the prior restraint territory, because it truly is censorship, because you're getting into the realm that, hey, a person, let's say it's a mile, then 2 miles. So you can film within 5 miles, you see where I'm getting at.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Avilia Gill thinks that this could be a Brady violation because the prosecutor withheld evidence. I don't characterize the prosecutors withholding evidence. I characterize the defense not entering evidence into the record, which probably was a mistake. What do you think, Alan?
I agree with you, Mike.
Okay. So, are there any other issues on appeal that you think? What if there was new evidence located that the officer was dishonest on the stand from looking at the old videos, or we found an internal memo talking about Chille DeCastro from a whistleblower that we might know? How would that change potential appeal? Would that be considered new evidence for a new trial, or would that be considered something else?
Well, I think you'd have to show that would have impacted the outcome. Right.
That it would have impacted the outcome. Got it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's say, let's just say I get caught breaking into your house, Mike.
Yeah.
And the cop omits some things from, that doesn't necessarily get rid of the conviction. I have to show that, the facts that were omitted actually would have impacted the outcome of the case.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at it that way too. I think that he was disingenuous about the steps that Chille was taking back. I think that he is the one who actually made the distance closed. But I think ultimately it's Chille cussing at him and being a jerk and all that really is the reason for all this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if any of y'all saw Chille's video. He did an audio call yesterday from court. I have some of it queued up, but I know Alan's in a rush and he probably doesn't care to hear it. But I'll play it for you guys when Alan leaves if you're interested. But basically, Chille said, "Hey, look, I keep losing. I've reconciled with myself that I know it's my attitude. I'm going to be honest with you guys. sugar will always get you more than salt. And I'm always nice to law enforcement officers. I even tried out for the LA Sheriff's Academy. I just have some prior injuries from being in the Marine Corps, which prevented me from going forward with that plan. So I'm not biased. I mean, if anything, being a Marine, they're kind of like kindred spirits, people who want to protect people. Not everybody joins police because they're pigs. A lot of people join police because they think they can make a difference and help people. And then ultimately they get skewed and cynical. I think that's a fair statement, right, Alan? A lot of cops get real cynical after a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of law enforcement in my career, and I certainly have a lot of friends that are law enforcement, and it's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. Now, just so you know, Alan, because I don't know if you follow all my videos, but they did this operation that my buddy Basil from BZ Watchdog, he's a Force Recon Marine who's obviously he's out of the Corps now, but he's from Texas, and he was telling me about all these mass arrests, and they did this Operation Accountability. I think it was in San Bernardino, where the San Bernardino sheriff is just engaged in a mass roundup of First Amendment auditors. And they're saying the same stuff about, oh, you just are YouTubers, you're engaged in misinformation, you're selectively editing. And it kind of reminded me of the judge here in the Nevada case, almost like they're all reading off the same script. And it kind of brought up that whole misinformation, disinformation thing, how the government's trying to outlaw speech if it goes against their official narrative. And it's just really interesting. And so I think it's really helpful to have Alan on here, guys, as well as me, to talk to you about trying to be more civil. You don't have to be confrontational. I know it might be good for clicks and views, but by the time you get done, even if you win your case, you file a lawsuit, it could take years. In the meantime, you're out your bail money, you're out your defense attorney money, because, if you don't win your criminal case, you're going to have issues of res judicata and other issues are going to come up. They're going to hurt your civil case. Would you say that's a fair statement, Alan? If you don't win your criminal case, it's really hard to win your civil lawsuit?
It's much harder.
Much harder, yeah. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about some of the issues, like about res judicata or things that you think might be a problem.
Well, res judicata is a little bit different. That deals with when you've had two cases that are very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I sue you in one court. I can't go and sue you civilly in the other court.
Mm-hmm. Like a question of law or fact that's already been determined in another case.
Yeah. So, issue preclusion is a little bit more reasonable. It's and also there's something called the Heck Doctrine.
Yeah.
Heck v. Humphrey is a Supreme Court case, and it doesn't allow you. Being Heck barred is a term for being precluded from bringing a civil lawsuit on conduct that you were convicted for.
Yeah.
Now, you can bring a civil rights lawsuit for getting beaten while being arrested for burglary. But let's just say you want to say the burglary itself is a violation. Let's do something more realistic. Heck barred would apply to, let's say you're saying you're protesting, another person says you're, causing a riot. You have to win. You have to win on your off on the protest. Show that you weren't protesting or disturbing the peace before you bring your lawsuit.
Yeah. So I hope people are. So I like to teach people law. I don't want to dictate or give you legal advice. I like to teach the black letter foundational issues of law. So you understand it. And so having a guy like Alan, who is a specialist at this, I haven't done appeals in a while. That's how I started my practice, was real estate law and appeals and writs. I worked for the Court of Appeal, 4th District State. And Alan's a federal guy, and federal is really where Chille's case is at. And these are federal issues. So I hope you guys give me a bunch of ones if, you like Alan and you appreciate him coming on. Type them in there for me because he's starting some arguments. I think he's briefing a 9th Circuit case. Alan, do you want to share anything about the case you're going to be briefing next week? Because we're not going to be able to see you for a while, and I wanted to get you before you disappeared.
Sure.
Anything you want to tell us?
I'll be arguing Wolford v. Lopez in front of the 9th Circuit, and not this Thursday, but Thursday after. And that case deals with, there's probably some people here in California, so you might have heard of SB2. SB2 is a law that says even if you have a CCW, you can't carry in most of the state of California. So I'm arguing the Hawaii equivalent of that. It's the exact same law. It's just Hawaii's version of it. What happened is after the Supreme Court ruled in New York Rifle v. Bruin, which is a recent Supreme Court case, that the states have to issue CCWs. All the states that didn't want CCWs got ticked and said, we're not going to, we have to issue them. So this is what we're going to say. The CCWs aren't any good.
All those commie Marxists are devastated about that.
So I filed a lawsuit in Hawaii that went to the federal court. Federal court said, yes, post-Bruin, you can't ban carry the vast majority of the state. In the county of Maui, where my clients live, 96%. 96% of the state is no issue. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to the 9th Circuit, which sets the precedent for not just Hawaii, but California, Nevada, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, Arizona, and I never can remember which one. It's either Montana or Minnesota, whichever one's closer to the West Coast. But anyway, and that's going to decide whether the government can ban carry, in most of the, even with the CCW in most areas. So I wish me all luck. It's working quite a bit to prepare for this.
Yeah, and I've, Alan, I don't know if it's going to be like have a live feed or anything, but I've seen Alan argue cases before the 9th Circuit, and he's really good. He's an excellent appellate lawyer, and we're really blessed to be able to have him here. He's also a black belt in judo, and he's a former Marine. That's how I know him. I care about him more.
I'm actually a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
BJJ, sorry.
Yeah.
Did I say judo?
You did.
Okay, yeah. I'm a judo guy. My son's in judo now, so I just messed it up. But we all know that BJJ, it means basically just judo. Just that judo has more takedowns and throws.
Yeah.
Right, Alan?
Well, that's subject for a different podcast. I mean, the original judo actually was very similar until the Olympics. Judo basically was jiu-jitsu until it went to the Olympics. And I could be on here for hours talking about jiu-jitsu. So
they just took out a lot of the moves that could cause serious damage to make it more appealing.
I won't bore a lot of people that showed up to listen to the First Amendment discussion.
Anyways, guys, I just want you to know the connection. The nexus between Alan and I is the Marines, the Second Amendment. Alan and Dick Heller is friends with Alan, and Alan introduced me to Dick. And Dick has become a dear friend, and I host him whenever he comes into town, so he has a place to stay, so he can save money, and that's what we do. You don't see me selling anything here. Maybe someday I might sell you a book or something about how to become a lawyer with no law school, but I don't have a trifold. I don't get paid for this. I'm doing it because I care about my country, and Alan's trying to help out too because we care about our country. And we don't agree with everything that Chille did. And we're trying to give you sort of a devil's advocate POV about what could potentially happen with Chille. But ultimately, I think that Alan and I would both encourage you to always engage in civility and try and treat everyone with respect and as best as you can, because I think that'll really prevent a lot of unnecessary arrests. But I think we should all be advocating towards a standardized way to audit police where they can't arbitrarily just, figure out a way to lock you up because they don't like you or they don't like your personality. What do you think about that, Alan? Like some kind of a standardized, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I certainly agree that people have a right to know what is criminal conduct and what isn't.
Yeah. Leaves too much open for the officer, especially if they're a bad cop, to just make up some crap. And when an officer approaches you and goes, "You can record me, it's okay." It's just like when they've got you handcuffed and they're punching you in the face and they say, "Stop resisting." These are just all training techniques to give the appearance that, I'm totally all about, as they got a gun to your head saying, "No, it's okay for you to film." So when you hear statements like that, as a jury, take that with a grain of salt. That's just academy training. Oh, it's okay if you film me while I close the 21-foot gap and try to arrest you and put you in the dungeon, put the torture cuffs, throw you in the dungeon, as Chille would say. Torture cuffs. It's so funny. I always know, Alan, when somebody knows Chille or they've watched any of his videos, because they call handcuffs torture cuffs. I mean, there's so many people that call handcuffs torture cuffs now. I mean, Chille must have millions of people who watch his videos. They don't even call them handcuffs anymore. Wild.
Well, Mike, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of work I've got to get to do.
No problem.
A lot of preparation for next week. So
everybody give Alan a bunch of ones. Give Alan a bunch of ones and tell him thank you. Go ahead, Alan. Say anything else you want to say and we'll close you out.
Well, friends, Chille's got a hard road, but I wish him the best, and I believe that the issue of whether or not you can film the police is something that definitely should be adjudicated in the cops so that people know exactly what their rights are.
Amen to that. All right, Alan. Well, thanks for coming, and we'll hopefully see you on a live feed or something with the Ninth Circuit. And
all right, thank you, sir.
Rooting for you. All right. So, everybody, that was just to give you an idea. That's kind of what we do. I practice a lot of different types of law right now. I focus on catastrophic injuries, truck accidents, big rig accidents, municipal bus accidents, where they hire these underqualified drivers, Caltrans, because they don't fix the roads and they leave these potholes that kill motorcyclists. And I'm heavily involved in the MC community. The Leathernecks Motorcycle Club are brothers of mine. I guess I have the right to call them brothers. I'm not in the club, but they stood tall for my father when the COVID lockdowns came up, and the government wouldn't allow me to bury him at the memorial cemetery because he's a combat decorated Marine from Vietnam. And because of COVID, we couldn't do that. I couldn't get him a bugler. So the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club went ahead and helped me stage his memorial at a gun range. And we brought in a bagpiper who was in the Marine Corps band to blow Amazing Grace for him. And we did a 21 gun salute and got to shoot out a bunch of targets at Jane Fonda, which was really cool. And in honor of my father, because obviously he hated Jane Fonda because of what she did by, helping the giving aid and comfort to the North Vietnamese. Don't want to get too far off topic. I just want to let you know that that's sort of what I do. I'm more of a catastrophic injury guy, but I've got a background in appellate law and criminal defense, and I've done quite a few civil rights cases. In fact, my first civil rights case was against a police officer that beat me up over a parking ticket, and I got $30,000 for that. And that was the primary thing that really spurred me into becoming a lawyer with no law degree on the law study program. And on that program, after I tried 3 cases as a certified law student, I was invited by a very good friend of mine. I'm not going to mention his name right now, but he's one of the best trial lawyers in the United States. And he got me a letter of recommendation to get me into University of West LA. And so I said, oh, heck, I'll go for it. I got no undergrad. So these guys are accepting me. They don't even care if I take my first year law student classes because I already passed the baby bar, which was like less than a 10% pass rate. It's contracts, torts, and criminal law. So I smoked all that. So, well, what's the point of even giving him an LSAT? This guy's already demonstrated that he'll be able to pass the bar. And that's exactly what I did. And I became a lawyer, passed the bar exam before I even got my JD. Stayed in law school and went at night, practiced law in the daytime, and got the coveted Juris Doctorate, which is, to me, not that big of a deal. But I'm glad I did because it's at least people know, yeah, this guy actually was a practicing attorney and went ahead as an afterthought and got a JD. So all you people who think you got to go to an ABA school and all that, it's whether or not you can pass the bar. And California is going to pretty much eliminate the bar exam pretty soon. And I think that Washington already did because they think it's racist or something to blacks and Hispanics because the Asians and whites are the ones who have higher pass rates. So to make it fair, they're going to eliminate the test instead of trying to educate people to pass the bar, apparently. And that's whether you went to an ABA school or not. So it's kind of weird. Go ahead and ask me some questions. Got King Braveheart. Thanks, King Braveheart. I appreciate that. So everybody, look, rough day yesterday. It was really sad to see my friend suffering, and nobody should have to suffer like that, especially for a nonviolent situation. So I just want you to know that I'm here to try and just explain things to you and give you different perspectives. Because I am one of the original auditors before we film things. And I've beaten many traffic infractions. I'm one of the original guys, I don't need a driver's license. I don't need a register. Remember those guys? I think they call them sovereign citizens now. So I'm totally aware of everything you're talking about, right down from the uppercase commercial designation and all that stuff. And by the way, members of the California bar have nothing to do with the United Kingdom's bar. And we can do some other interviews about that. But don't assume that everybody that has a bar card is automatically a big brother. If I didn't get my bar card, there would be a lot of patriots in prison right now. I've done a lot of pro bono work, and I've helped a lot of patriots that are just like you. Some of them obviously even better versed in the law than you. But they needed a lawyer to help them. And so just think about that. We're not all bad. And, I try to stay in the biker community because I think when there's too many laws, everyone becomes an outlaw. And I really like bikers. I think that I would trust a biker to babysit my kid over one of these child groomer public school teachers any day of the week. Those guys know how to deal with people who mess with kids. So, let's just really quick. I'll try to look at. So Tucker. So Tucker, his appearance looked pretty bad. He did. He looked defeated. He looked subdued. I know that a lot of people say, "Oh no, he's acting like a bee or whatever." He's got to be hard and strong for prison. They might be right. You definitely can't show weakness in the can. But I'm not going to judge the guy because he's going through hell and he shouldn't be in jail based upon the evidence that I saw. Now, don't do anything to get yourself in torture cuffs. Troy Funkhauser. Yeah, that's kind of true. You don't want to. Now, everybody, we're going to start doing the arrest breakdowns. So starting tomorrow, BZ Watchdog, Force Reconnaissance buddy of mine. Notice there's a theme. I just really love Marines. It's a true brotherhood. There's nothing else like it in the world. And he's gonna help me break down all of the arrests that have been happening to these auditors. I think we're gonna do Texas audit gal. I can't remember, but it's the Texas gal. Y'all know who she is. GAL audits or something like that. We're gonna do Hendry. We're gonna try to have them come on too, as well, to sort of narrate their videos for us as far as what happened, and because you don't always get it on the video, right? Sometimes you need someone to explain it to you. So let me see here. Thanks for the one, Roger. Appreciate that. Give me a bunch of ones if you think this was an okay episode. And, put it in the comments if you have any things that you want me to talk about in future episodes, or if there's stuff that I'm doing to bore you. I know people have complained before that Alan doesn't have like exactly the same kind of energy as Chille or I, but nobody's going to have the same energy as Chille, and nobody's as eccentric as me. And he is a book guy. I mean, he knows how to, he's a deep thinker. So whereas I'm going to spit an answer out in 3 seconds, it may take Alan a little bit longer, but you're going to get a much more prepared and concise answer, which in the Marine Corps, you got to have all types in order to have a proper order of battle. And, Alan was a tanker and I was a ground pounder in 03. So I was a rifleman and Alan was a tanker, an M1 Abrams tank commander. So he's the guy who can put the big rounds on target and protect the whole unit. So you got to work as a team. We can't all be machine gunners. We can't all be mortarmen. In order to make the unit effective, you have to have all different personality types, and everybody works in support of each other. Well, actually, everybody works in support of the infantry, but I just said that to be nice because I know the Marine Corps is going woke. But yeah, everybody else works in support of me. Everyone in the Marine Corps works in support of the infantry. How's that, all you pogues? But no, honestly, I love all you Marines. That's just the way it's always going to be. And you corpsmen as well, because you are Marines. All right, so let's go. Got a nice thanks to Alan. Educate yourself on corruption. Thanks, Let's OTVO. Hey, man. So hopefully we'll have you on our breakdowns this week. We already got a couple shows lined up. I'm just looking to see if there's anybody that's got questions for me before we go in. Now, Stomper, I see the second lawyer was worthless. I'm not sure who you're talking. I hope you're not talking about Alan, because the stuff that he shared with all of you is exactly the bad medicine that you need to be taken. You need to understand that the way that courts do things isn't black and white. They have these balancing tests, and they'll weigh these interests back and forth. And if the court thinks that 21 foot sounds like a fair distance, they're going to go for it. They're going to go along with that. So we need to be more educated about our understanding of the law. Now, Thomas Aquinas, I believe, said a good judge needs to know the law and mean to keep it well. And you should be studying natural law, natural rights. You should be reading the works of Hobbes, Locke, Sir William Blackstone. Very, very important work. Sir William Blackstone is how everybody became lawyers. They read for the law in the early United States. Even Abraham Lincoln, that's where he got all of his information from, was Blackstone's Commentaries on the English Law. An amazing group of books. You might want to try to find versions that have been sort of converted into modern language, because the old English is such a pain in the butt to wrap your head around, even for someone like me. Now, although I didn't have all the college background and all that, I always was really smart. I had an IQ of about 160 and pretty much grew up in the library because we didn't have computers and the internet. And my mom just couldn't understand, why do you always want to go to the library? But I just read everything I could read. I mean, I'm a speed reader, so I just read thousands and thousands of books and became self-educated. That's how they used to do it. Back in the old days, it was about classical education. You'd learn languages. You would become an apprentice and study under someone. It wasn't sitting in front of a book getting brainwashed by some Marxist rainbow flag waving professor. It was totally different. So let's see here. Moto Medic. Hey, Moto Medic, if you are a medic, or if you have a website or anything about cars or motorcycles or any of that kind of stuff, if any of you guys have any kind of websites that have to do with vehicles, cars, things like that, reach out to me. I got a couple blogs I'll link to you to try to help you out. I always try to help people who are in my circle. I am an SEO expert. I've been doing organic search on Google since well before 2007. I was a webmaster before I was a lawyer. When I had my other businesses like my limo company and stuff, I used to build websites. So I can build websites from the ground up, and I can get you backlinks, help you out. So anyone in my circle, I'll help you guys. So anybody here who's got a website, got a marketing company, you want some traffic, if it has to do with transportation and things like that, I have theme-related sites I can help you with. I agree. Innocent people should never be locked up, Josephine. And look, I don't want to bore you guys. I can cut this cast anytime. I'm just staying here because it looks like there's still a lot of people in the chat, and I don't want to be a dick. So it says here that Chille has previous bad experience with cops, which explains his bad attitude. Look, I'm on board with you, brother. Like I've had bad experiences with cops too. That's why I don't get pulled over. That's why I always drive the speed limit and I stay away from cops. And whenever I do meet cops, because of my demeanor, and I usually have a USMC lapel pin, and I pretty much always wear a suit. Cops don't mess with me because they know that I'm a Marine, and they respect that because they know that I've got harder training than them, and that I have a true band of brothers that, unlike they'll ever have if they're just LEO. And so I get a lot of respect from police, and they don't give me a hard time. And yeah, all the answer is no. And if you go to my bio, because I don't brag about being some gung-ho chesty puller Marine. My education as a Marine really started under my father, who was an 0848, and he volunteered to go back to Vietnam for a second time because he was worried about his men. And he was a hero in Vietnam to a lot of his friends who I'd met growing up. So I was no hero. I was just a Lance Cooley, no decorations, no deployments. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton. And my claim to fame is probably a couple of fist fights in Oceanside with my buddies. And that's pretty much it. But yeah, now Alan, I think I don't know everything about him, but if you want to meet a bunch of Marines who were deployed, you can come to one of the fundraisers I do for the Paul Ehline Memorial Ride, the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club. These guys, the original Leathernecks, man, these guys are so good to go and just caring like real men, like you could really rely on. And we're going to be doing an event in May. One of the guys is a Navy SEAL, a former Navy corpsman who was deployed, I think, a few times. So, they allow Navy corpsmen into the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club because I think I've told you this before, that Marines consider Navy corpsmen to be Marines. If they're deployed like Fleet Marine corpsmen, they're one of us, man. They're actually more than one of us. We circle around them and protect them. As one commandant said to a scared mother about her son joining the Marines, "Ma'am, there's no safer place in the world than inside a battalion of Marines." And that's how it is. You put your corpsman in there, no one's touching him. Now, Graham, thanks for thanking Alan. Let me see here. What's it sound like when shit hits the fan, Marine? That's probably true. Yeah. Well, everybody knows, that we don't mess around. So let's get back into this really quick. So once you've had a couple of bad experiences with hey, just like with bad girlfriends, you have a couple bad relationships and you really start looking for those red flags. If you're one of these guys like me who was trying to spot a mate so we could, reproduce, right? Because you want to make sure you choose your mother based on these qualities that she has, so the kids will look up to her. And one of those is that she's really loving and sweet, because you obviously want your kids to feel that they're loved and all that sweetness. So yeah, bad experience with cops, same thing. You want to run away from them, and you can't choose your cop. That's the problem. So let's see here. BZ Watchdog, we love you. Yes. Where is BZ? I don't know. Oh, there he is. Right on, dude. So I'm really looking forward to hanging out with BZ again. Hopefully give me a bunch of ones if you like the way I do it. I know Chille likes to do these one show, like it's all him, and then break things down. But I like to bring on guests. I think that bringing other people on who may know more than me is always good, and it kind of breaks up the monotony. And BZ Watchdog, man, he's the coolest. He's got that mighty personality. The guy, if you bring him to a party, he's going to make all the girls laugh. So you can try to steal a girl from him once they start laughing. So let me see here. So Graham says Alan hedges his advice. Well, Alan is with an A, by the way, but Alan's not really giving any advice. What Alan's trying to do is make you think. And so am I, because I don't want you guys to think that, there's this case law that says this. And because this case law says this, we're going to win. That's not how it works. That's not reality. And I used to think like you guys, a lot of you guys. And that's one of the things that encouraged me to become a lawyer on the non-traditional path, where I studied under litigators, not in a classroom setting. at least at first. I was doing jury trials. I was studying under judges and lawyers, criminal appeals, writs, mandamus, mandate, prohibition, whatever it might be. And so that's how I got my training. And we're not trying to give you any kind of advice other than be safe and study the law, like actually study the law. Like a lot of my videos that I'm posting, my shorts, I basically give you like little bar exam definitions of each thing. Like what is negligence? What is self-defense? So watch those if you get a chance. So what the judges know. So what the lawyers know. So they don't look at you like you're a retard or something when you start talking about some case that has no applicability to your particular facts. Remember, each case is distinguishable. Like that 21-foot case, it's really about if someone's charging you, like how much reaction time would you have to take them out with a double tap center mass. So I don't really think it should even apply to Chille's case because the officer already admitted on the stand that Chille wasn't a threat. And I would venture to say that the officer knew who Chille was. I just find it very hard to believe that he's not on the back of a milk carton in every police department's milk carton, his picture, because he is just so dynamic. And if he approached one cop, everybody in the department's going to know about that. Be like, I don't know, a real famous celebrity showing up at a Marine base, like Commandant showed up today. Every Marine's going to know, oh, the Commandant showed up, it's a big deal. So, okay, so serious question. What do you all think of Orm's strategy of opening yesterday's hearing with an offer for Chille to apologize? Look, I don't think that it really made any sense, but he's got his thing going. As you know, I was there with several people. I was there to make sure that if they needed me to verify the letter that I gave the attorney, that I wrote that letter, that I was there to do that, to authenticate it, because none of the letters in his brief were signed. And in California, that would have been fatal for me to submit a brief to a court with a bunch of unsigned letters that are unauthenticated. And his declaration was very vague and ambiguous as to whether or not these were true and accurate signed documents. Like you could have said, I have personal knowledge that Mr. Ehline wrote this letter because my staff talked to him on the phone, and that Mr. Ehline will be in court today. So why weren't they signed? Well, because I think they had to, we got calls at the very last minute because, they're scrambling to get this brief filed in time. So they just attached them, didn't have time to get SIGs from us. We don't use fax machines anymore, and I didn't have a scanner with me, so I just sent what I could. And so just was there in an abundance of caution. So let's go. All right. So it says here, Tucker says, do you think that Chille will win in any of the 4 states? I have no idea. I don't know enough about Chille's other cases in other states. I just know a lot about this particular case, and I think there was an injustice done. But you did hear Chille's audio today, right? Did all of you guys hear Chille's audio? If you didn't, it's over at DeleteLawz. It's like 8 or 9 minutes of him talking about basically, hey, I'm a dunce myself. He's basically saying, hey, I'm a dunce cap. It's my attitude that's doing this. And the first sign of healing is to know that you have a disease, right? So you can fix it. So let's see. Now it says here, harassing good cops is not patriotic. Well, depends on your definition of harassment, but I understand where you're coming from. Now, that is true. Many innocent people are locked up and put in handcuffs, torture cuffs all the time. And that's why guys like me try to speak out and help people, because it bothers me. Because that could be my son someday, or it could be my daughter falsely arrested. So just remember that, guys. All you people who are rooting for Chille to get hurt or beat up or punished harder. I mean, that's just really not good, because that could be you. You always have to think that way. That could be me. And maybe Ehline's got a point here. So now let's just go down here. A lot of people say it ain't no good cops. Orem one. I watched the video and my client was extraordinarily disrespectful. Okay, so I mean, I think all of us saw, yeah, he was. But also the officer snatched cell phone out of Chille's hand. That's a battery, and I don't think it was justifiable. Could have been done a different way. But Chille knows how to push people's buttons. So, what do you guys think? Put a bunch of ones in the sidebar there if you think that Chille was disrespectful. Put a bunch of twos if you think that everything Chille did was fine. Let's just take a little mini poll here to see what you guys say. I'm curious. I'm scrolling down to look to see. Man, there's a bunch of comments here. Holy crap, guys. How many people are in this thing today? I can't tell, but it looks like there's 170 people in here. Jiminy Christmas. That couldn't be. Okay, yeah. I think there are good cops, but I think most of them become bad. Okay, and that's the problem. So that is the problem. You're short timing. You got to get that pension. You got your wife yelling at you. She might be divorcing you because you're beating her because you're so stressed about your job. Because we know that cops do have a much higher preponderance of beating their wives. That is true. So yeah, it makes you jaded, makes you cynical. I have several friends who used to be cops. I have several friends who actually are cops, and universally they all want to get off the force. They don't like it. They don't like being disrespected by the politicians who send them out on jobs and then throw them under the bus when they enforce the laws that these politicians force them to enforce. So these politicians use police like punching bags too. Imagine being a cop. I mean, most cops are like pro Second Amendment. They support a lot of the things that we all support. Like they don't like these what's going on in the public schools. Like trying to brainwash kids, sexualize children. They're not into any of that crap. They think like us. But some other areas, where we have disagreements. I guess if I could try to say anything to you people is we need to find some kind of a common ground here. We need to get more active in the local community and try to do positive things to where we can come together on the things that we agree on. I think that détente is extremely important in this age because we know now that we have BlackRock and these large corporations like trying to eliminate free speech rights, trying to declare everything hate speech that they don't agree with, trying to force behaviors on parents. We know that in California, the schools have been secretly trying to transition school children, and they keep getting caught, and now they're being sued by a bunch of teachers who simply refuse to lie for the school district. They're trying to, call your kids a different pronoun at school and not tell the parents, try to convince them that they really are the opposite gender than they were born with. They call it assigned at birth. God assigns your gender at birth. Jiminy Christmas. What's going on? So yeah, there's a lot of things that we agree on that we need to try and come together on if possible. Now, let's take a look. Yeah, many innocent. That's true. There are many, many, many innocent people getting thrown in jail. 2 kids on a playground. Either wrong and why? So let's see here. 2 kids are on the playground. One is screaming. One lays hands on the other. Are either wrong and why? Well, sure. I mean, screaming doesn't invite someone to put their hands on you. If you're loud and obnoxious and it's offending people, those people can also march with their feet. They can vote with their feet. They can walk away. As soon as you put hands on someone, unless they're a physical threat to you, and they're in your safe zone area, that's a violation. That's a battery. So hopefully I answered the question right, Brick. Hopefully it wasn't a trick question. Yeah, I agree with you, April. By the way, I love your picture. You look like a famous movie star or something. I love it. So what does it say here? You're doing your best. Great job, Michael. Hey, thanks, guys. I also put on there on my name, attorney at law, Texas, CA. So because a lot of people don't believe that I'm a lawyer or don't know who I am. So BZ Watchdog said, no, dude, you got to put, these people need to know you're actually a lawyer. They'll just think you're just some commentator. There's already a bunch of commentators. We don't need another one. So he's probably right. All right. Okay. Jonesy. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Good analogy. Yeah, I think they were disrespectful first. Yeah, so being disrespectful is hey, look, man, we all have that disrespectful person in our family, the crazy uncle or whatever. We don't want them getting locked up. And family is, people get a little, even if the guy's in the wrong, you mess with our family, you're going to have problems. So people need to be careful about what they're doing, including law enforcement. They need to be careful. It's a two-way street. They could lose their job, a lot of stuff. So here, were you the original sovereign citizen? Oh yeah, I was the only one. Even before there was a Freeman of Montana, I was the one. Don't you remember me? I was all over, like, the airplanes had the thing, Mike Ehline, sovereign citizen. Yeah, for sure, buddy. Great question, by the way. My goodness. Everybody put a bunch of ones if you think that was a great question. Okay, Gloria, does anyone have Chille's inmate number? I can try to get it for you. I am in the process of doing a by mail visitation thing as an attorney, because I don't want to do it through the internet. Because last time they had me register to where they could listen to my conversations, and I'm not interested in getting into that. I'm an out-of-state lawyer, and I help Chille with other stuff, and I'd like to be able to talk to him confidentially. It looks like that's not going to happen, though, because they're going to force me to use a video phone. So it's almost like meaningless. Let's see here. I'm exhausted over all this. I still believe that it was the WWE group that hit our live. Oh, right. Okay. So somebody's talking about getting hacked. So misconstitutional rights. Apparently, somebody got hacked. Like Chille's feed or something got hacked. That's kind of interesting. Thanks for the one, Chevy. Yeah, give me a bunch of OTVOs. Make sure to smash that like button, hit that subscribe button, and all that good stuff. And I'm gonna wrap this up in a minute here, guys, because I'm getting kind of tired. But look, I don't have Chille's energy, okay, and I don't cuss a lot, but I'm a pretty gung-ho dude, and I do care about people. So that being said, everybody make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because you never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. And they will. They don't like it when people are talking about natural law and God-granted rights. We're crazy people to them. These people who run social media, these people who run the World Economic Forum, they support the Luciferian system. And we don't do that here. We support things that are time tested, like natural law, natural right, liberty, freedom, less government control over our lives. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save. Everybody, I'm going to go ahead and close out. With that being said, Semper Fidelis, do or die. Make it happen, guys. Make it happen. You only have one life. Only one life. Make it happen every day. Every day is precious, especially if you have children. Semper Fidelis.